So back when I was starting out, this is how I trained. I would wake up and the immediate thing on my mind was the gym. And so I would come in here and I would train, not in here because back then I had basically no money, no job either. But it wasn't even that long ago either. But I would just train, bro, first thing in the morning. And the main reason for that was because I was going through some character development and I had broken up with my girlfriend, which was I broken up with her 3 years ago, and we've been together for 5 years. And so that really, honestly, that stung the road. That was something that really ignited my drive, and it hurt, right? And a part of the reason was because I was still young. I was still figuring out life, but it still hurt. No matter what age you were, it's still gonna hurt. And so it just hurt, especially for me, because I hadn't learned about the rules of the world. I hadn't learned about like how the world works. And unfortunately, that was my awakening. And so I would just come in here, I would train, and I had all the motivation in the world, even though I had no money. And I would just train in my garage, right? I didn't have money for a gym. I didn't even have a job by then. I had just gotten a job actually like a couple months after that happened, so I can get money for myself. But, and I wanted to prove it wrong, right? And so I needed somewhere to put all that pain, and I found it in the gym. I loved it, man. It was such a arc for me. It was such a time for me to get started on my fitness journey. And I think a lot of us start that way. We have like this pain or like this awakening. And usually people take action based on how close the consequence is. And so, for example, let's say if you told someone, hey, if you keep eating like this for 10 years, you're going to get diabetes. They're going to be like, oh, 10 years, just a burger. I'll lock in tomorrow. If you tell someone they're gonna get diabetes tomorrow if they eat this, they're not eating that, bro. They're throwing that away. And so that consequence was so close to me, and it just drove me, bro. And I want to prove it wrong. And initially, it did get me started, right? And then eventually, that consequence, the time of the breakup, and as time went on, that consequence of the and the pain of the breakup started to dwindle down. And 3 to 6 months down the line, it didn't really affect me much anymore. It doesn't affect me now. I mean, it's been 3 years. I don't, it doesn't matter to me anymore. The point was, as time went on, you know, my only reason for improving was her. And so, yes, I was improving. Yes, my physique was getting better. Yes, I was, learning about fitness and everything. But once the person that I mainly started for started to fade away in my life or out of my life, my purpose started to fade away too. And so I was improving under the circumstance of whether this person was watching or not. And it got me going, obviously, but it started to dwindle down. And I realized I was later on down the line, I realized I was only improving for an entire person who probably wasn't even watching, who probably didn't even care about me anymore, right? And so I was playing basically under someone else's games or someone else's rules. So was I really winning? And the truth was I wasn't.
I don't know if I can find my way out. I'm stuck in a prison of doubt.
So here we have the breakfast. Right now we have some turkey, eggs, and some potato. This is like my go-to breakfast almost every single day, just because it's so simple to make, and it also hits all the macros, especially the micronutrients from the eggs, the carbs from the post-workout, and the protein from the ground turkey. So this is like my go-to every single time, and I drizzle it with some low calorie teriyaki sauce and some parsley flakes. Just to make the flakes are not really there for the taste, it's just for the presentation. And so it really looks cool. But as I was saying, so yeah, I did improve my physique a little bit. You know, I improved my knowledge. I started to do more workouts. I was still in the garage. And then as I went to college, my first year, I did see a noticeable improvement, you know, in my muscularity, which is cool. And so it looked like I was winning from the outside, but my attention was still focused on my ex. And for you, it might be, I don't know, it could be your girlfriend, it could be your boyfriend, it could be maybe a mom, a dad, maybe a family relative. You never know. Like you're probably trying to prove something to someone. And let me tell you, it really does work in the beginning. It does, right? But until I realized I was playing someone else's game and under their rules, you know, just trying to get noticed by them and see like and try to be successful in their eyes, you know, as what they missed out on. It really, you know, brought my to my attention that I wasn't in control. I wasn't in control of my own work. So I was working hard on the outside, on the external, on paper, I was working hard, you know, I was improving, but my internal hasn't changed. I was still focused on what they were thinking about. And when you are only focused on or doing things for another person, are you truly in control? You might be improving somewhat, but you're not really in control. And so that motivation, it might be good for the beginning and it could get you started, right? But then as that dwindles on, you know, as you get away from the consequence in the beginning and then time passes on because time heals everything, you might, you know, forget. You might forget. And so this person becomes maybe less important or something, and then you lose the motivation. And it's not that, you know, you lost the discipline. It's not that you lost consistency. It's just that you really lost the person that you were performing for. And so the discipline went with it. And that's what people a lot of people mistaken is that they think, oh, it's just like I lost discipline, I fell off. But it's most likely that they just lost the motivation or they lost the person that they were performing for, or they lost, you know, they felt less pain from what got them started. And then, you know, that pain like dwindled off, and then now they're just like saying, oh, it's my discipline problem, it's my meals. And they blame it on the external when in reality it's the internal purpose that they don't have. They don't have an internal purpose. They don't have that because they were performing for someone else on the external. So when you realize that having like an artificial motivation to start off in the beginning, it's good, but it's like a double-edged sword. It gets you started in the beginning, it gets you ignition, it gets you ignited, but then that dwindles off and now you have to find a new motivation, or you have to wait for something bad to happen again, and then you get motivated again, and then you start again. So the motivation is good in the beginning, like don't get me wrong, it got me started on my fitness journey, but what happens after that flame kindles off?
They will come, they will come. Like the sun, like the sun. They will be, they will be.
So we just finished up a run, all sweaty right now, but as I was saying, I don't have my mic, by the way, so hopefully it's not too windy, and hopefully you can still hear me. But what I was saying was, as time passes on from what happened, like for example, the breakup or the comment or the situation that really got you riled up in the first place, it slowly starts to dwindle down in pain. So I noticed this after a year, after my breakup, I noticed my pain was going away, right? I can now eat regularly. I couldn't eat for a while. I couldn't sleep, but I could sleep now after a year, or like I'd say like 9 months to a year, and everything started feeling better. But as everything was going better internally, my external started to take an impact, because now I was waking up
I was, comfortable now, but I wasn't waking up driven, you know? I was waking up like, if I get the things done, I get the things done. And so this is where a lot of people lose themselves, because now they don't have as much of a desire to go after what they were going for in the first place, but simply because they lost the person that they were performing for, or they lost the motivation after the situation happened. And so they lose themselves and they blame the discipline, like, oh, it's just a discipline thing. No, they blame the external, when in reality it's the internal that first changes, and then the external is just a representation of that. And so what happens is they're internally, they're comfortable now. They get comfortable and they can, just do everyday things. They don't have to think about the situation after, a while. They don't mindlessly overthink about it. But now the external shows that, right? They're not doing their gym. They're not doing the whatever it is, whatever your goal is. They're not doing their projects. They're not doing their assignments. They're not going to the gym. They're not exercising as regularly. So the pain dwindles down, and then your purpose goes with it. Your discipline goes with it. And so people think it's a discipline thing, like I said, but it's simply just because they lost the reason, because they don't have their own, right? This is why I say forget them, not in a hateful way. I say forget them in a way of just use them as a starting point, and then use yourself, your own reason to keep on going. So everything that you had before when the pain was there is still there, right? The discipline is still there. You had it when you were in pain. You had the consistency when you were in pain. But now, since the pain is gone, you think that goes with it, but you still have it in you. It's just that you have to build up your own purpose, your own reason to still keep going. So what originally got me started was running away from pain. But then as that pain went away, I didn't have a goal I was working towards. So maybe it was a breakup, or maybe it was a comment someone said, or your family. I understand every single one of those. But eventually, there has to be a reason of your own, right? And it can get us started. This motivation from anything that's happening in our lives, from any hardships, it can get us started. But eventually, you'll have to come up with the purpose of your own. And this is hard nowadays because everything is consumption now. We always have consumption with YouTube, and I understand you're on YouTube and you're watching this video, and I appreciate it, but YouTube is good. But overly consuming these types of information is not good, right? Instagram Reels, bro. I still struggle with Instagram Reels. All these consuming, right? All this consumption that we can't think on ourselves. And so I don't 100% blame you. I don't 100% blame myself, because the modern world has changed nowadays, right? But I believe beforehand, when, there's all these celebrities now, right? Like all these sports players who are 30 to 40 years old, they were born before all this technology. And I don't mean to go off a tangent, but they were born without all this technology. And so they had a lot of time for themselves. They had a lot of time to think, and without consuming. What you have? You couldn't doom scroll a newspaper. You can't doom scroll a newspaper, bro. So I mean, that's what I think. Just stop consuming so much, and I need to work on that as well. It's something that I feel like, man, if I just watch a podcast, if I just put a YouTube video on while I waste time, I won't feel like I'm wasting time. And that's the opposite of what we should be doing. We should be more creating, right? Create your own thoughts and have your own purpose, as if no one was looking. So I want to leave you with 3 questions, if I can remember. What would you want if no one saw? If no one was able to see what you were doing, and there would be no applause at the end, right? If you had to focus on a goal for yourself, what would you do? The second one is, if the person that you were doing all this work for disappeared, if they disappeared out of your life right now, would you keep going with what you're doing right now? And 3, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you strive for? Those 3 questions, I believe, are really, really important. And I asked myself those a couple times throughout my life, just pause and think, if what I'm doing right now, would I do it if it wasn't for, this person I'm doing it for? or would I do it if, you know, no one saw him and no one was like gonna be there to congratulate me, right? And a lot of jobs nowadays, unfortunately, people don't really like it, you know. So if we had the freedom to do so, we would, you know, go do our own thing. But what I'm saying is, don't do it for anyone else but yourself. Like, genuinely pick something that you want to do for you. You know, go in the gym because you want to be healthy. Eat healthy because you want to feel good, right? And just do it for you, bro. Like, all these reasonings and people, like, all these videos that people say online, like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. There's so many mindsets out there that's hard to figure out what's the right one, and there is no right one. The only one that is the correct one is what you want. What do you want? And it's hard to do that when you have people, you know, nagging at you in all different directions, and you have these situations of like people doubting you, people making comments, and you know, people breaking your heart and everything. There's gonna be people like that, but you have to push through, and you have to do this for your own well-being, not because someone else hurt you, or not because you want to prove to someone else. You know, I personally wanted to show my dad, it's a little personal, I wanted to show my dad that I was worthy of being his son. I wanted to show him, and it felt horrible when I left school because I knew that that's what he wanted me to do, but I just didn't see the value in it. I just didn't see it. Of course, if you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, or anything like that, of course. But with what I was doing, I enjoyed making videos, and unfortunately, I went against what I'm saying right here. But this is before I knew everything. When I was younger, when I was still in that relationship that I was telling you about, I was posting videos, and then my ex called me cringe and like saying I was thirst trapping online because I was showing my physique. Now, I didn't have a good physique at all. I was just posting my progress, and I just wanted to show my progress, and I didn't care. But then as soon as she said that, I stopped making videos for like a whole year or two, and I regret that. But guess what? We're back now. I cannot just think about, and I cannot just do things because I want to make another person happy, or I want to show someone else. You know, I want to prove to someone else, right? That just goes to show, do not listen to anyone and follow your heart. Follow your heart, do what you want, and don't let anyone, especially if they're not where you want to be, tell you otherwise. All right, I hope this helped, and I know it's like kind of a weird outro because I don't have my mic, I don't have everything, you know, I don't, my tripod's like kind of stuck right there facing me. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got some value. I really want to be consistent. I will be consistent with these YouTube videos, and I already posted one yesterday. This one I'm gonna edit, so I really hope this videos help out someone out there. See you guys.